Ladies, it's incredible. It's amazing. Remember a few weeks ago, Mike had a sermon and I had a sermon about growing up spiritually, maturity. These are opportunities where that can happen. The prayer time, the flagging nights, Bible studies, Overeaters Anonymous. These are all faith-based things. This is places where we can grow and become mature in Jesus Christ. And then we have a new addition to our family. Lacey and Wade had a baby boy. I know, and it was a tough one. It was tough for her, but she made it. Elias Zachary, get a load of this, 8 pounds, 14 ounces. That's a big little boy. And Lacey's not that big. So we're so grateful. Mom and baby are doing great. Wayne is proud as can be of his wife and his 3 children. So it's awesome. So yeah, we're going to get now testimonies. Jewel, where are you, love? She's first. Come on up, honey. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. That's right, Jewel. Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Yeah, so I was asked to share what brought me to the river and what I've been learning right now, like what God's been teaching me. So what brought me to the river is definitely the most interesting part. We moved to the river from the Okanagan 16 years ago, and actually 3 years prior to that, so 19 years ago. And we'd been going to a church that was great, but it just wasn't filling us in the way we needed. And so we were searching around for a different church. And I had a couple friends, the Fraser girls, who went to this church called The River. And so I went to visit it one day, and they used to meet in River, Yale Secondary School. And there was only like 40 to 50 people, so it was like really small. And so I was trying to figure out which church to go to, like what should I do? Should I go to the river? Should I go somewhere else? And I was just talking to my mom one Saturday night, and she was talking about Colossians chapter 1, and she's like, I really love Colossians chapter 1. There's so many good things in that chapter, and like nobody talks about it in the church at all, like ever. She's never heard a sermon about it like in her life, and so I was like, okay, God, if you want me to go to the river, I pray that the pastor would speak on Colossians chapter 1 tomorrow. And I know it's not always the best way to like seek God's will, but that's what I did. So anyways, get to the church the next day, and there's a special speaker, and he says, open your Bibles to Colossians chapter 1. So I was like, okay, I guess the river is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, so it was really exciting to come here and like have our own building now and like be settled somewhere. So we moved around a lot since then. And then as to what I've been learning in my life, just looking back on my life, realizing how it's kind of been the same theme over and over, which is kind of crazy. It's like finding how much God values you and loves you in the being, just being who you are instead of like doing and like working and serving, which is kind of funny because like I kind of identify more as like a Mary, someone who like sat at Jesus' feet, just chilling there and like it was all good. But I still really, really struggle with feeling like I need to do in order to be loved by God, and like feeling that God loves me more when I do more for Him. So I ended up going to a camp for 2 years, which were, I consider, the best 2 years of my life. I just always felt like I had a purpose, constantly serving, whether I was like washing the dishes or we had like kind of like a youth group for disadvantaged youth. Helped build cabins, like just whatever it was. You always felt like, even if you're just walking around, like you're serving a purpose, you're here for God, for His kingdom, and I felt like I was making an amazing impact in other people's lives. And then after the 2 years, I felt like God was calling me to leave, and it was really hard to live there financially. So I was just raising support, and it was like a very small amount. And I did not want to come home. It took me like 8 months. It took me 8 months to like get over not being there, and I was just kind of devastated, and just felt like I didn't have a purpose, and like God still couldn't use me, and so I just kind of learned in that time like how much God does love you, even when you can't do for Him, like maybe it's like health issues or whatever, financial issues, like you can't be in the place that you want to be in. God still can use you, and He still is like fighting your battles even when you're just being still. I love how there's that verse in Philippians that says to like work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And then the next verse says, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. So like it's like God in you, right, that does it. It's not you, it's not your works, it's like Him in you doing it. And then I had another time where I felt like I just needed to rest and not be serving, not be doing, and kind of be like anonymous. So I ended up going to a couple different churches, like checking them out, and wanting to find like a big youth group, young adults group. And I just found like none of the other churches really compared to the River. Like I just love how everybody's open and welcoming, and like the worship here, you just feel like you're like in the kingdom, like in the throne room, basically. Pretty much every time you're doing worship. And I just feel too like if you're in a season of rest, like when you're giving to the River's like there's like the stream and the Spirit Cafe that like you're giving into, and like it's helping the community even if you're in a position where you can't really be doing that. So I just love that about the River. That's pretty much it. Just one final thing like God's been teaching me lately is like to trust Him, and to just rest and like not freak out, because there's so many things where like God will like take the mountain and like move it into the sea, and then like a couple days later it'll be like, okay God, what about this other part of the situation? Like I know like for me when I'm reading about the Israelites in the Bible, I'm like, okay, you guys, can't you get it? Like God did this amazing thing, and like a couple days later they did the same thing. They're like, God, like what about this and what about that? And they get like freaked out, and it's like we do the same thing. Like I do the same thing all the time. So I just wanted to remember, like, I want to be remembering, like, okay, God did this amazing work in my life, like, just like a week ago, like, He can do it again, and, like, just be chill and be calm, like, He's got it. So, that's it.
Thank you, Jules. Jules will be up here afterwards. If you're in a place where you feel like you constantly have to do things to earn God's love and favor, she's going to pray for you afterwards. So that's great. Next is Christine Foss. Woohoo, Christine. Come on, girl. Christine and I go way back. We belong to the other church together. The church we both came from. Same with them over there. Here we go.
I have to apologize. I look like I need a makeup redo after worship this morning, so.
You look gorgeous.
You look great. So I've written the stories of my family for well over a decade. But when Anna Marie asked me to share what brought us here, I had to write a story I wasn't willing to write. So I've been 2 steps from tears all week long, so I apologize. Can I use this?
Yes, of course.
Then people don't have to watch my shaking hands.
Absolutely. You can do whatever you want, so long as you talk.
I will talk, and I will talk a lot. You'll probably want me to stop talking.
Rob, come and help, will you? Does it go in the front of her?
Yeah, it can't pick up from the side.
Okay, well,
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Oh, and that's yours.
I'll give you this.
All right. No, I can.
Oh, you have already. Okay.
I'm supplied. Wow. So my name is Christine. My husband Rob and I, we have been married for nearly 25 years. We have 2 children. Our youngest Zach is 20, and our oldest Clinton is 23. And a year ago, he married the love of his life, Alyssa. So now, finally, the tables are turning in our family. There's a little more female in our house, so that's good. We will take over. We will. So I have loved Jesus my entire life. I don't know life without Jesus. But the Jesus I know today is very different than the Jesus I knew as a little girl. And I think that's incredibly special. So today, I'm going to invite you into a story I never would have imagined writing. And I'm going to try really hard to tell my story. But when you live in a home with 4 people and all of our stories intertwine, I have to be careful to tell my story before and without forcing the others to tell theirs. So I hope I've done a good job here. So 3 years ago today, this is like a 3rd anniversary, I don't think you knew this, but 3 years ago today, Rob and I were packing for our very first fly-away holiday in 21 years. No children. So our oldest had just started his first year at BCIT, and our youngest was starting his final year of high school. And so we thought, perfect timing, fill the pantry, and fill the cars with gas, and we could disappear for 4 days without any trouble. So where do 2 adults go when you have 4 days and no kids? You head to Disneyland. Of course. Of course. Now, anyone that knows us knows that we love Disneyland. But this trip was extra special. So, so we flew out early Thursday morning. And when I say early, I mean really early. Like it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Only crazy Disney people leave the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning for Disneyland because they know full well if everything happens correctly, you will be in the park before noon. And we were eaten, we were fed, and in the park in the crazy lineups by 1 o'clock. We hadn't even checked into a hotel yet. By 1 o'clock, we were in the lines. By 3 o'clock, so 2 hours later, we were at the front of our very first ride. 2 hours. We were the next to board the ride, and they shut it down. Wow. I know,
Tragic.
it's tragic, but it wasn't. Except that my husband's really intelligent, and he likes to say really smart things at really smart times, and he said this. As we left the lineup, he said, honey, we better just start praying for God to shorten these lineups, or we're going to get nothing done in 3 days. So I looked at him with my best Sunday school face, and Sunday school teacher face, and I said, that's crazy, that's sacrilegious, it ain't happening. And he's like, well, follow me or don't, that's what I'm doing. And so we headed back to the hotel room. We headed back to the hotel room to check in and have dinner. And Rob opened up his Instagram feed, and on the feed was a picture that was supposed to look like Jesus' face, and it said, don't worry about a thing, I'm already on it. So he looked at him and he said, see, God cares. This is going to be the weekend of your life. That evening began the most exciting 3 days we have ever lived through, ever. We went back to the park after dinner, and I kid you not, I tell no lies, people started stopping us in a crowd full of people, like randomly tapping us on the shoulder going, we have fast pass tickets that we're not going to use, do you want them? We would show up at rides that had no lineups, and I'm telling you, like popular rides, with no lineups. We would get in line, turn around, and there's hundreds of people behind us. And this didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice. I'm telling you, it happened the entire weekend. We had a couple wearing a bride and groom Mickey ears tap us on the shoulder and give us a pass to the ride that we knew we weren't going to get on that weekend. There was no way. There were no fast passes left. It was like we were just going to have to give it up for another day. Han just went and said, "You want it?" And so the very last day, don't worry, the whole story is not Disneyland, but it's very, very, very important. On the very last day, we had 2 things left on our to-do list. We had a parade that was new, which we saw, and we had one ride that was not far from the parade lineup that we knew if we could get there right after the parade, we could get in line. So after the parade, we headed in that direction with literally thousands of other people. We get there. There's no lineup. Like, we were in the middle of a pack of thousands, and there was no lineup. So we get in line, and literally as we hit the front, they start queuing up. I don't know if you've ever been to Disneyland, I'm sure not everybody has. They're really good at hoarding people, and we play along with it. But they hoarded us. Like, we were the front, and then literally 5 seconds, there were hundreds behind us. We got on the ride, we completed it all. We get back to the hotel room, and Rob's like, "Honey, it just wasn't long enough. Like, one more day. One more day would have been perfect." And I said, "You're right, so next year. Next year we come back, we book a longer time." By the time we got to the airport the next day, our flight had been delayed. And then it was delayed again. And then when we finally got on the plane to head to San Francisco, which was after the time we should have landed in Vancouver, our flight was canceled. We missed our connector. It started 18 hours in SFO in the International Departures Terminal. It's not fun. But God showed up again and again and again, and the most profound was we were standing in line to pay for our dinner, and a man tapped us on the shoulder and didn't even talk to us, talked to the man behind the register, handed him a food voucher and said, "Here, use this. These guys are with me." So I go to turn around, there's nobody there. I saw the brightest blue coat on a man that you should not miss in any terminal, and I could not find him. Rob said, "I'm waiting for the food, you go hunt that man down." We spent 18 hours in that terminal and did not find him. Wow. But we swear we were fed by an angel, and we know it. So what did we learn? We learned, first of all, that we still love each other after all these years. And we have the best fun together. But we learned that God is literally everywhere. That He is in every moment. That He has an amazing sense of humor. That He loves to play and have fun. And just want to make sure I'm not missing this all, because it is like really important. We learned that we had to wake up every morning with open hands, with anticipation and expectation, because He had already blown the roof of what we thought He was, that we had no choice but to continue life that way. Why was it important to learn this weekend? Because I kid you not 2 weeks later, we came home and we were ushered into the scariest life change we had ever imagined. The enemy had decided he was writing a new story for our family. And we were the main characters. And we didn't get to pick our roles. He was writing them for us. But I tell you, there is no way in hell that he was going to win.
Come on.
So the circumstances of the situation forced me from fun, exciting stories of the happiest place on earth to days of anger, frustration, and enough tears to fill an ocean. The tears today are not tears of anger and frustration, I have to tell you that. These are tears of joy and thanksgiving. I had to fight for my little family in ways I was completely unqualified for. The enemy reminded me daily, sometimes hourly, that the only job I had as a mom was to keep my family safe, and I couldn't do it. When the initial shock of our situation wore off, we gathered our safe people. I did the only thing I had control over. I wrote a survival list of 4 questions that I asked each member of my family daily, and sometimes when necessary, hourly. Questions no one should ever have to write, let alone ask. And I somehow thought that asking those questions would keep the enemy away. What Rob reminded me of in the moments of my crazy, because there were many, he says, don't worry about it. I'm already on it. And contrary to what I believed in that very moment, God actually loved each member of my family more than I did. We couldn't put one foot in front of the other without God's help. If he cleared lineups in Disneyland, he could surely clear lineups in Abbotsford. If he could place people in front of us and behind us in lineups at Disneyland for God-appointed conversation, he could surely do the same thing in Abbotsford. And then we did the only thing we could do as a family. And that's that we each started each and every day with our hands open, with expectation and anticipation that he was going to show up. He showed up there, he's showed up for our family over and over and over again, and he was going to do it now. My life verse has always been Zephaniah 3:17. And this is how I break down the verse now. The Lord your God is with you. We experienced it in a fun, exciting way in Disneyland, and we clung to that at home. We could have headed for the hills and fought the battle with the enemy on our own. No one would have faltered us. But we knew if we wanted to win, we had to be with him. He is mighty to save, and he most certainly is. On the other side of the battle, we can see that he is the mightiest, the only one strong enough to pull us through. Battle weary, but we were holding on for dear life. But when we came to the end of 8 months after our life was turned upside down, when we had more good days than bad days, we thought it was the end. So we let our guard down, and the enemy was waiting to take us out at the knees. Completely different story, completely different situation, but he was ready. So were we. We were already on our knees. We were on our knees. We were praying. We learned to fight. We learned skills. I learned skills I never thought I needed. And again, with our safe people close by, we planned our strategy so we could be standing tall at the end. And then 11 months after our fight started, we packed up our youngest son, Zach, and we celebrated survival and the hardest fight ever at the only place that fit. We went back to Disneyland. But you ask, how did that lead us here? We encountered the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit that year in a way we never would have dreamed of. So often people have to get to the other side of a difficult situation before they can see his hand at work. But we were fortunate to see his hand in every single step. It's what gave us breath when we felt like the circumstances would suck it right out of us. We praised him in the tears until the tears of joyness were replaced with tears of joy. And during the whole year, we continued to do church the only way we knew. But we experienced him in a way that year that made doing church feel really flat. So we pursued him daily. We spent time quietly in his presence, and we listened for direction. And we heard loud and clear, if you want to be different, you need to do differently. So Rob and I prayed out 2017, and we prayed in 2018. And we knew that God needed us to stop doing church and start being church. In August of last year, we officially landed here. Why the river? It's the most beautifully messy place I have ever been. And I'm sorry for those that haven't experienced yet, but It's not. It is the most beautiful place. We felt that our beautiful mess could land safely here. God was waiting. He met us here in the gentlest way. And for those that think I have forgotten the rest of Zephaniah 3:17, not a chance. Neither did he. It was in this place that I finally saw he will take great delight in you, in me. This brought another ocean of tears, of course, but he will quiet you with his love, and he has. Each and every time we walk through these doors, whether for worship with family on Sunday, or the Spirit Cafe, or the stream. And because of this, I know he will rejoice over me with singing.
Wow. That's all I know what to say is wow. Thank you, Stu. No, I don't need this either. I think Christine just gave this place the best compliment ever. What did you call it, Christine? The most wonderfully messy place? Beautiful, messy place. It's a beautiful, messy place. It's a place where you can be real and vulnerable in the presence of the Father and in the presence of the Father's kids. If, we're going to finish off, but if you could stand with me. Jules will be over there, and Christine has lovingly said she'd be here. If one of the prayer team could stand with them, would you stand with her and someone with Christine over here? Jules is going to pray for people if you are caught up with busyness and you feel that that's how you need to perform to earn the Father's love. And Christine, there was so much in there. If anything that touched your heart, what Christine said, she's going to just bring you before the Father. And, yeah. So, Father, it doesn't happen very often that I'm speechless. But it was an incredible morning. You came. You always come. You undo us and you make us messy with snot and tears and laughter. Father, you're incredible. You're incredible. Amen. Michael plays the music and yeah, just feel free to come up. Thanks for coming.